Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Real World Blockchain, the podcast where you can learn how to make your business thrive thanks to Web3. This episode brought to you by Web3 Enabler, the first and only provider of payment solutions on Salesforce and other CRM. Hi, Rebecca. Hi, Zoe. How are you?
Hi, doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So, it's interesting because a few years ago we were saying that cryptocurrencies would never be, we were hearing that cryptocurrencies would never become a regularly traded asset in the stock market. And that's interesting because now basically the debate is more about should this or that cryptocurrency become a publicly traded asset. And so you guys might have heard about the Ethereum ETF, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yes.
So for all the listeners who don't know what an ETF is, let's vulgarize it again. ETFs or exchange traded funds are exactly as the name implies. That it's a fund, so an asset on the stock exchange that you can trade on exchanges, and it's tracking a specific index. And here it's tracking the uh, average price of the Ethereum cryptocurrency, so the Ethereum token. That's quite a good news for the Ethereum Foundation, of course, and it has been approved by the SEC. And analysts say that despite the initial price response, the approvals, the legal approvals, may not yet be fully baked in, and that's interesting because it seems that the US is becoming more and more crypto friendly on the stock market and on the regulatory side. What do you guys think?
Yeah. I mean, this is like the third news of this kind that we've kind of talked about this year so far
Mm-hmm.
about ETFs, which is like super, super exciting. And this could make it so that very soon more people can invest in Ethereum. Could you imagine the day where it's trading on the NASDAQ? That's amazing. It's also interesting because it suggests that the SEC is hinting that it's a commodity, right? A conversation that we have
Mm-hmm.
on this podcast all the time. So this could be a great first step to kind of defining and to setting some like guardrails around how to interact in the crypto space. So
Mhm.
I think it goes beyond the fact that more people can have access to trading it. I think it's a good first step towards some regulations and some clarity.
It's quite interesting also to note that both political parties are kind of trying to seduce the cryptocurrency users. So, a few days ago, I read that former president and I think potential presidential candidate Donald Trump is. Is trying to seduce people by saying that cryptocurrencies should, by adopting a cryptocurrency friendly pause, a Web3 friendly stance. But that's interesting because, in consequence, perhaps, or in response to that, there is a significant participation from Democrats in many of the bills that are currently crypto friendly. So, is it just because everyone wants not to be the party that will lose the election because of crypto users? Probably not, because we're not that numerous at the moment, but still, that's interesting to see that everyone is thinking that this is a force to be reckoned with. What do you think, Zoe?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obviously a topic of interest within politics because of economic opportunity implications as well as innovation. So, politicians, especially when potentially running for president again, would want to be on top of that. They would want to be likely in favor of it or at least have something to say and just to kind of get themselves credit.
Hmm. Interesting indeed, and we'll see what happens with the others, with the other blockchains, because the SEC, this agency, has proactively come out and said that assets like the Solana token, the ADA token, so the Cardano token, but named in honor of Ada Lovelace, and the Algorand token. They all fit the definition outlined before, used to determine whether something is an investment contract or not. So they are already thinking about it. So there could be a Solana ETF very soon, and many others following. So that means that now it's not a matter of whether cryptocurrencies are going to become the main payment system. It's how and when, more than if. That's quite interesting to see that everything is now a totally totally clear strategy in this direction.
What an amazing story would that be if Solana gets an ETF? Because think about like everything they've been through, right? At first, it was like everyone was so pro Solana, then they crashed, then they came out and they have the phone, right? I think that's what it is. So they kind of like keep trying. They're kind of still in this space, going back and forth, and then for them to come back and potentially have a fund,
Mm.
that would be so exciting. What a beautiful journey and story that would be.
Funny fun fact before we change topics, I received a very funny management newsletter today in change management and transitioning in a company from one technology to another. And one of the headlines was, "How do you sell the Ethereum ETF to boomers?" Which was oddly specific, but showing that there's an interest in every layer of the corporate world. So that is encouraging, promising, and quite exciting. Even though I don't
Yes.
know how to sell a cryptocurrency ETF to a boomer, and that is not our work here. We're talking about payment solutions, but still, that's in the scope of what's of the problematics that many companies are going to use, because many accountants and people from HR or from sales teams are going to face. They have many people willing to use willing to work, and these people probably need to be trained or to understand how cryptocurrencies work again. So they might be interested in ETFs as well. And so, because we were speaking about the SEC earlier, there are a few other things that we need to talk about this week. We're talking about the SEC every week these days, right?
Yes, we're their biggest fan.
We're
Oh yeah.
the SEC's biggest fan. So there are a few things that passed legally in the U.S. this week. One of the things is that the crypto industry had a rule to respect regarding the way you have to account for cryptocurrency assets, and this resolution to condemn this rule has passed. So there will probably be maybe a veto by the White House, but that's another very hot topic at the moment. And we also have the CBDC Anti-Surveillance State Act, and it passed passed at the House of Representatives. So they considered and passed this legislation. So they basically sum it up, for more than 2 years, they tried to pass this legislation to prevent a U.S. CBDC from being what the Chinese CBDC project is. So basically something that tracks the private life of most citizens, but also the Chinese CBDC has an expiration date where you can't really you can't spend your assets until a certain date, or before or after a certain date. So it's very hard to save money, to spare, and basically to build patrimonial wealth. So it's kind of showing that there is a very strong difference of philosophy between the U.S. and China. Well, no, that's not a scoop, but that also shows that there are many different philosophies in the Western countries, because, for example, Canada is really different from the U.S. in this regard, and there are also many other bills that were passed this week as well. So what does it make you think, Zoe and Rebecca? What do you think about this turmoil and this huge maelstrom of legislations that are coming up more than ever? Do you think it's because the topic of finance and money laundering is important, or is it because of the elections?
Probably some combination, trying to just distinguish ourselves from those other nations that you'd mentioned, from those other governments that you'd mentioned, and between political parties within the United States. I think it all factors in.
Yeah, I agree. I think all the new legislation suggesting that crypto is becoming a bigger deal in the United States.
Hmm.
Perhaps the US is feeling some pressure to kind of keep up, right? Because like we see the European Union, we see other countries kind of making some strides and trying to find ways to define what crypto are, or what people can and can't do with it. So perhaps the US is feeling some pressure to kind of start to look at that more carefully. But I would not discount the fact that it is an election year, and therefore, they're kind of looking at the market and thinking like potentially like, oh, crypto's having a really good year. Maybe this creates an opportunity for me to fundraise for my campaigns. Maybe this creates an opportunity for me to rally people behind that cause and kind of like bring them over to my side. So I wouldn't discount the fact that it's an election year, but I think it's bigger than that. And a lot of it has to do with kind of what's happening across the world, not just within the US.
And Zoe, what do you think about that?
I completely agree. I completely agree, yeah, that it all factors in.
So we'll see how it turns out, but I'm very surprised to see that for once the US right and the US left seem to agree and to go in the same direction. The only actor which seems to be disappointed is the famous Gary Gensler from the SEC and a few other people. But basically, people from the SEC seem to be very disappointed. But all the others are basically paving the road for a very standard regulation, saying, okay, now this is just like trading something in the world of finance. Lawyer up and have a good accountant and respect the rules, and there will be no problem. And you can make your business grow and grow bigger without you know without be living in the fear of losing that business. So I find this very positive.
Yeah, I think I found it really positive too. Not to get like so much into politics, but I remember a time where politics weren't so like extremists, right? Like if you were right or left, there was still like a middle ground and you were able to kind of work together and push things forward. But it does feel like the last, I don't know, I'm gonna say 10 years or so, both parties have been so far apart from each other, so extreme in their beliefs and in how they're making decisions, that I think it makes this instance where they're both seeing the benefits of potentially, moving forward some legislation around crypto as like them working together. But this, like they used to work together all the time. So maybe crypto could be the thing that kind of bridges those communications.
It could be. Yeah, I think, stances on technology, not political per se, but um, among various stakeholders who typically don't agree, it's kind of easier to agree when it comes to certain aspects of innovation or technology because it's more objective rather than subjective. Um, and also just it's so commonly talked about and can grow and change things so rapidly that it is seemingly different than a lot of other traditionally political topics, if you will.
Very
So I
true.
think that certainly factors in here. And especially when it's directly tied to economics, but is also technology versus another type of technology that's not directly economic because it's not you're not talking about digital assets. But when you're talking about digital assets, I think it just combines those two worlds and kind of incentivizes this type of scenario in politics. I think it certainly contributes.
Absolutely.
Fascinating. Thank you so much for your insight, guys. We have one last thing to announce for our listeners. If you, dear listeners, are around Austin, Texas this week, our team is there Alex Hochberger, the CEO and founder of Web3 Enabler, and also from the Moon team, Francois René Rideau, aka Faré, who's the president and founder of Mutual Knowledge Systems. So you have the two people from the two companies there, and contact us on Twitter or X, as we say now, or on Discord, or any social media if you want to set up a meeting with these guys, or just hit us up, find us there, and have a very nice week.
Amazing.